Science!
Hello and welcome to Science this week. This week we're going to check in on Mars, actually. The Mars Rover, slated for 2020, is undergoing final testing and getting added some new components. First of all, with all the major elements on board and initial functioning checks complete, the Mars 2020 assembly, test, and launch operations team are all preparing the rover and its sky crane descent stage for the next big test, simulating the vibration dynamics of launch and the thermal environment the rover will experience on the surface of Mars. And they go through so many extensive tests to really make sure that when we launch the thing and it hits that planet, it's going to be all in one piece. And I still remember when Curiosity landed in 2012, and it was such a momentous occasion. I can't wait for next year. And there's a short video actually from JPL about this new and exciting rover and all the stuff that's going to be a part of it right here. Now, in my opinion, one of the coolest things they're attaching to this new rover is the new Mars helicopter. And we talked a little bit about this when it was in its ideation stage back on an earlier science segment. But it's really interesting to think about a helicopter on Mars, right? Engineers attached the NASA's Mars helicopter, which will be the first aircraft ever to fly on another planet. Put that into perspective. And they attach it to the belly of the Mars 2020 rover in their High Bay 1, the clean room at JPL, at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. The twin-rotor, solar-powered helicopter was connected along with the Mars helicopter delivery system to a plate on the rover's belly that includes a cover to shield the helicopter from debris during entry into Mars's atmosphere, and the descent upon landing. So it got a protective shell, basically, so it doesn't get damaged before it actually gets to be able to be deployed. It will remain actually encapsulated in that shell after landing, deploying to the surface once a suitable area to conduct test flights is found at the Jezero crater, the rover's destination. Now, the Mars helicopter is considered a very high-risk, high-reward technology demonstration. If the small craft encounters any difficulties, the science gathering of the Mars 2020 mission actually won't be impacted. This is just extra stuff. And like I said, I think it's the coolest piece of extra stuff that is involved in the Mars 2020 mission, but all of the science that's encapsulated on this rover is incredible. If the helicopter does take flight, as it is designed to do, the future of Mars missions could actually enlist second-generation helicopters to add an aerial dimension to their missions. So think a fleet of these on Mars, giving us a bird's eye view and a lot more of a view, because when you think about Curiosity or Opportunity or this new Mars 2020 rover, they have set mission parameters and they can only go so far on a vast planet. You put something in the atmosphere that can fly around, you can cover a lot more ground, and we can get a lot more data, which is really exciting. And I have a video again from JPL that kind of details all of this about this exciting Mars helicopter. I don't know. The idea of being able to fly a helicopter on Mars just blows my mind and makes my imagination run wild. I just think it's so cool. And so does everybody who's involved with it at NASA. JPL's Mimi Ong, the Mars helicopter project manager, actually said, "Our job is to prove that autonomous controlled flight can be executed in the extremely thin Martian atmosphere. Since our helicopter is designed as a flight test of experimental technology, it carries no science instruments. But if we prove powered flight on Mars can work, we look forward to the day when Mars helicopters can play an important role in the future of explorations of the red planet." So cool. Along with investigating these difficult-to-reach destinations, such as cliffs and caves on Mars, and deep craters, these helicopters could carry small science instruments and science suites of instruments, basically, and perform various science tasks that the rover couldn't do in areas that it couldn't get to. It could also act as scouts for human and robotic explorers. So think about when we first step foot on Mars. We could have, if these helicopters work, we could send them out as kind of like drone scouts to like figure out where we can go next and if there's any danger, any cliffs or anything, kind of happening. The agency intends to establish a sustained human presence on and around the moon through NASA's Artemis lunar exploration plans, using the moon as a stepping stone to put humans on Mars. And we talked about the Artemis program on just a few episodes ago, so you can go back and listen to that if you're curious about Artemis. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine said, "The Wright brothers flew the first airplane at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, but they built it in Dayton. The Mars helicopter, destined to be the first aircraft to fly on another world, was built in Pasadena, California. Joined now to the 2020 rover, it is yet another example of how NASA's Artemis generation is expanding humanity's reach in our solar system." Thomas Zuberchin, the Associate Administrator of the Science Mission Directorate at NASA's headquarters in Washington, added, "With this joining of two great spacecraft, I can say definitively that all the pieces are in place for a historic mission of exploration. Together, Mars 2020 and the Mars helicopter will define the future of science and exploration of the red planet for decades to come." The Mars rover, with the Mars helicopter aboard, will launch on the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket in July of next year. And that'll be from Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. When it lands at Jezero Crater on February 18th, 2021, the rover will be the first spacecraft in the history of planetary exploration with the ability to accurately retarget its point of touchdown during the landing sequence. We've come a long way since the first rovers we've put on the red planet. JPL is building and will manage operation of the Mars 2020 rover and the Mars helicopter for NASA. NASA's Launch Services Program, based at the agency's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, is responsible for launch management. Lockheed Martin Space provided the Mars helicopter delivery system. Now, I just did this, and I encourage all of you guys to do this as well. If you'd like to submit your name to travel to Mars on the rover, you can do so at the URL provided below. And if you're not watching this and just listening to it, it's go.nasa.gov/Mars 2020 pass. And to submit your name, just go on over there and you'll obtain a souvenir boarding pass to the red planet. And I just think that's super rad to do. So why wouldn't you want to do that? Speaking of submitting your name, if you're a kid or you've got kids out there in kindergarten through 12, they have the opportunity to name the Mars rover.
Hey kids, NASA needs your help. We are getting ready to send our newest rover to Mars. It's going to look for signs of ancient life and help us get ready to send astronauts someday. The only problem? It doesn't have a name yet. What would you name the rover?
I have no idea.
No idea.
Gotta come up with something good for this one.
All of NASA's robot explorers have their own missions, personalities, and names that fit them and tell their story. We can't wait to hear your ideas and read your essays to name the rover.
The program has already started, and as I mentioned, kindergarten through 12 students in the U.S., public, private, and home schools can enter the Mars 2020 Name the Rover essay contest. One grand prize winner will name the rover and be invited to see the spacecraft launch in July from Cape Canaveral. The Name the Rover contest is part of NASA's efforts to engage students in the STEM enterprise behind Mars exploration and inspire interest in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And it's so exciting to be a part of something like that. So I encourage everybody to get their kids involved, or if you're a kid yourself, get involved and, submit your essay. Because we don't need a Rover McRover face on Mars. We just don't need that. We need a cool name, something cool. NASA Administrator Jim Burdenstein said, the naming contest is a wonderful opportunity for our nation's youth to get involved with NASA's Moon to Mars missions. It's an exciting way to engage with a rover that will likely serve as the first leg of a Mars sample return campaign, collecting and caching core samples from the Martian surface for scientists here on Earth to study for the first time, which is so exciting. The Mars 2020 rover is a 2,300-pound robotic scientist that will literally search for signs of past microbial life, characterize the planet's climate and geology, and collect samples for future return to Earth, and literally pave the way for human exploration of the red planet as part of the Artemis generation. It's incredibly exciting. George Tahu, Mars 2020 program executive, said, our Mars 2020 rover has fully taken shape over the past several months as the project team installed various components onto the chassis. The computer brain, the electronics, the wheels, the mobility system, the robotic arm, remote sensing mast, the 7 science instruments, and finally the sample caching system. All that's missing is a great name. Now, to enter the contest, students must submit by November 1st of this year their proposed rover name and a short essay, no more than 150 words, explaining why their proposed name should be chosen. The essays will be divided into 3 groups by grade level: kindergarten through 4th grade, 5th through 8th grade, and 9th through 12th grade, and judged on their appropriateness, significance, and originality of their proposed name, and the originality and quality of their essay and or finalist interview presentation. 52 semifinalists will be selected per group, each representing their respective state and U.S. territory. So that's really cool, too. So even by submitting this, you could win at least for your state, which would be awesome right away. 3 finalists out of those 52 will then be selected from each group. Will be selected from each group, actually, and advance to the final round. As part of the final selection process, the public will have an opportunity to vote online for the 9 finalists in January 2020. So that's 3 finalists from K through 4, 3 finalists from 5th through 8, and 3 finalists from 9 through 12. NASA plans to announce the selected name on February 18th, 2020, exactly 1 year before the rover will land on the surface of Mars. It's so exciting. So again, if you're a kid or you have kids or you know kids and want to get them involved in this really cool thing, go on over. You can find all of this at nasa.gov. And if you happen to be watching this science segment, I'll put the URL right here, and you can go on over and check that out. And hopefully one of you or one of your kids will be the lucky winner and name the Mars 2020 rover. So cool.